Destination Newry, it's the morning programme. I'm Rowan Hand and I'm with you until 10:30 Irish time this morning. Feargal McCormack with me. We have another great Warren Point man coming in today, Canon John Kearney.
Well, now, we've adopted him, a tremendous Warren Point man, but he'll never forget his South Armagh roots.
No, he won't.
And may I say that there will be few better role models of people on this earth than John Kearney.
John's a huge
He does
man.
Tremendous work for so many people, and he does it with ease, which is always a sign of greatness.
He does it with ease and he does it with joy. He's, I went to school with John. We were in the same class. He did rather better than I did, I think, and that was good. He was very, very impressive even then. But he does the things he does for people. Really, really, truly a Christian outreach from him. He picks people up when they're down.
He's people-centred. He always has been people-centred.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the past week, I've been at a number. He's had a number of funerals this week, and I've been at a number of them. And I suppose in terms of business, the passing of Jack O'Hare should be noted.
Oh, for goodness sake!
A great man who contributed much to Newry over 90 years. And if you think of the O'Hare, the mill, and the feed to farmers, and then in later years, I personally was delighted to work very closely with him in Enterprise Newry, and the Newry-Pittsburgh partnership. And, but Jack was one of those people who was at home with all ages.
Was very, very, very.
And I think, to be fair to Mary and his wife, we really, on behalf of the Newry business community, express sincere sympathy because Jack was a giant among people.
He was a giant, but at the same time a quiet aristocrat.
Well, he
walked with gentleness.
Yeah, but he had lots of fun in him, and Jack was the type of person he could mix in any company.
Yeah. His sailing days, so a friend of his was telling me, he said, once I borrowed a winch handle from Jack. Jack said, yes, have it, there you are, and give it to him. And it went over the side. And he said, I then went away and I got him a lovely, shiny, brand new winch handle. And I brought it back to him. And I said, there you are, Jack. Oh, Jack says, what's this? I said, I lost the other one and this is a beautiful new, I got it for you. Oh, I said, is there anything else you'd like to borrow? And so the humour was there too.
I believe he kept a box of Mars bars on his boat, and as other boats passed, he threw Mars bar over the kids.
That would possibly be on the occasion of racing for the line at the start to disrupt them and distract them. You say that could have been a tactic.
Yes,
and we lost Jerry Barlow of Typewrite as well.
Another great man, and I have to say I was at both funerals. Jerry Barlow's funeral, Willie John McBride.
Willie was there.
Paid a lovely tribute, and he told some. They actually, believe it or not, they were together as 11-year-old schoolboys in the same class, and they, at different stages in their life, they were close. They went on family holidays together. But Willie John told some fantastic stories, and obviously recalling the time John Major rang from
started the Gulf War.
Started the Gulf War with George Bush from the typewriter factory in Warren Point. So
we should tell the people how that happened. It was Bush got the call through to him, and it was the special phone that was there to receive the call. And Bush said, "We're going to go," and Major said, "Yeah, we're going to go." And Jerry said, "Away you go, lads. Good luck."
Yeah, but again, Jerry, a very shrewd businessman.
Oh, goodness.
Him, Florence, him and his wife, a lovely family. And Jerry also great interest in rugby. Totally, he found, I think he founded maybe Virginia Rugby Club, also Burr Rugby Club in his travels. And then back in Warren Point, obviously he was involved in Newry, etc. And Jerry Barlow, a man who made an immense contribution also to the local economy.
We're blessed to have had such men with us. Now, your business leadership conference this week, Sir John Parker was the guest. What came out of that for you?
Well, basically, each year we organise the annual FPM Leadership Lecture in association with Ulster Business School, University of Ulster. This is our third year. The first year we had Dennis O'Brien, the second year Martin Naughton, and Sir John Parker. And each in their own way were all different. I mean, Sir John Parker, really an amazing story. If you think of he went to a school with 12 pupils in the Slievenamon Road between Kilcoo and Newcastle. 12 pupils. His father died at 13. And therefore, he had to basically take a job, an education that would allow him to get home in the evenings. And he went to originally Newcastle College and then on to Queen's, where he studied naval engineering. A career, you got to remember, that probably makes him now the most sought after chairman or director nearly in the world. John Parker that man from humble beings. People, we associate him here with Harlan Wolff. Harlan Wolff was only a small piece of
He
this
ran the
man.
Bank of England, didn't he, for a time?
He was the chair of the court of the Bank of England for 5 years. He was also the guy brought in whenever there was great doubt about English gas. He was the guy brought in to chair the national grid, which was considered then the most important thing for the UK economy. He currently, for example, is the chairman of Anglo United, the largest American mining company in the world.
Goodness gracious. What age man is he?
He's 73. He's
not going to stop.
He's vice chairman of Airbus. He's chairman of Carnival Cruise, which includes P&O and all those cruises. You know, this guy, he's also deputy chair of Dubai, a company in Dubai. So make no mistake about it. But, you know, it was the humble touches. You know, he gives some really great advice, you know. He said one thing which I thought was interesting. He said, always be sure you don't go so high that you're not able to come down again. And you got to also remember that you've got to talk to all people. And he also, I thought, said one very interesting thing. He said, rule number 1, leave your ego behind you. And I thought that was actually very, very important.
If you can do that, you have a major success on your hands.
He also said to young people, he suggested that they should try and do a little bit extra. Do whatever job they're doing, try and do a little bit extra, more than the people are expecting.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he told some great stories, you know. And the shop steward came to him one time and said to him, Reverend Paisley's coming on Christmas Eve. Reverend Paisley's coming in the new year, as normal, to talk to the... So he asked the shop steward, well, when did this happen? And the shop steward said, well, tea time. And he said, well, tea time's 15 minutes. How long does it? So anyway, the long and short of it was, he said, we consider who should be able to come, but he said, number 1, he said, who's paying for this? He said, who's paying? There was 8,000 workers. Who's paying for the hour you're losing?
Yes. Yeah.
And he said, well, you go back and check out it with Dr. Paisley. So he said Dr. Paisley didn't come, but he met Dr. Paisley and was very friendly on many occasions, as he was. You were in that role.
Yeah.
But he said he remember the next time he met him on the plane, Paisley came over to him and he said, John, how are you? How are you getting on with running our yard? He said, I'm trying to continue the work.
So he actually effectively stopped him doing the Bible classes during tea breaks and talks. Yeah. And then, of course, on the day of the signing of the Anglo-Irish Agreement, John Parker allegedly locked Peter Robinson in the boardroom to prevent him organising a shipyard workers' strike.
Well, what sadly happened there was that was the time Margaret Thatcher was privatising shipyards, and in particular he was fighting very hard to try and keep Harlan Wolff in Belfast. And he decided on New Year's Eve night at 11:30, he said to his wife, I'm going down to the Shippers Club in D Street. She said, where? He said, I didn't even know myself. But anyway, he said, I went down and I knocked the side door, and he said, this gentleman came out and he didn't know me, and so I asked for the shop steward, who I thought would be there. So the shop steward came out and he said, look, I can't go to bed tonight. I'm worrying. Parker says, I'm worrying about the prospects of you guys walking out in a political issue. He said, if Maggie Thatcher sees those 2 cranes on TV, she just shut the place. Yeah. So, the shop steward says, this is New Year's Eve night now, 11:45.
My goodness.
The shop steward, he says to him, why don't you come in and talk to them?
Wow.
So he went into he said the only time he's ever in his life, he went into the Shippers Club at 11:45 on a New Year's Eve night, got up on the stage with a mic. There was 1,000 people there. Interestingly, they didn't walk out, which I didn't realise. They didn't walk out that time. But more importantly to your story, what happened was he was having a cup of coffee or something. Somebody came over to him. One of his security men said, Chief, there are 2 MPs just after arrived. They're in the yard and they're hoping to. I think they may be talking about arranging a walkout. So he said to he called over a couple of security men. He said quietly, "Can you try and get the 2 MPs to come back and see me in the boardroom? I want a wee chat with them." Yeah. So the 2 security men went down anyway, and eventually they obviously must have persuaded the MPs very politely. That's what John would like to talk to them. Yeah. So when they came back, he allegedly locked the 2 people in the boardroom over the lunchtime, and then went back and had a cup of coffee with them. So the walkout didn't happen at lunchtime.
It's a lovely story. It certainly is.
It's the type of thing you can tell 10 or 20 years on.
Yeah. Nama, going to sell a bit of its loan book. Who would want to buy it?
Well, I mean, this is speculation, but I think it's very interesting because even the Irish Finance Minister, Michael Noonan, has hinted that this may be some of the exit options for NAMA. I mean, there are rumours in there are stories in some of the papers suggesting that one of the portfolios it's looking at perhaps selling is its Northern Ireland debt book, about £3 or £4 billion. So, I mean...
What would that go for?
Well, I don't know, but I think the issue is that it's a very interesting development and it may not happen. I think there's 3 or 4 years. But make no mistake about it, if it happens, it'll be one of the most significant economic things that have happened in the north of Ireland in the last 10, 15 years. Because what you're really talking about, NAMA owns significant land currently in Northern Ireland. People wouldn't realise they own it. So watching that space will be interesting.
That any money, that goes straight to the government. In the Republic.
The significant point would be, to be honest with you, there's a couple of significant points. The significant point would be at what price the debt is bought over, and secondly, whether the new purchaser and NAMA are waiving personal guarantees, etc., of previous developers on the debtors. So there's a lot of technicalities. It may never happen. But
at least there's movement. They're talking about it. It's not stagnant.
It may bring a bit more certainty one way or the other. But I think certainly it's a very interesting one to keep one's eye on.
Yeah, absolutely.
As is these stories always have a little bit of smoke to them. The leak, I think, was in the Times and so the Sunday Times on it, that the Ulster Bank are considering selling their operations in the south. I have to say that doesn't surprise me, but it'll be interesting to see whether there's any momentum in that one as well.
And what about the possibility of a merger, the Ulster Bank and is it Danske Bank or?
Well, that's a rumour, certainly in the south of Ireland. It'll be, Danske Bank is owned by the Danes, a very powerful bank, north and south. This would have been unheard of 3 or 4 years ago. But the reality is now, you would never, would be the wrong word ever to use in respect of the banking industry at present. So, I think it's interesting. I think it will have a big impact on Northern Ireland. And therefore, I think the executive and the finance minister, Simon Hamilton, will be watching closely on that one.
Yeah, are you following at all the Anglo case in the Republic where the executives are up in court? It's an interesting one.
I'm on and off.
Impossible to stick with it, for goodness sake.
I think that there will be books and books written on this one. And it's a matter of actually. Hindsight is always an easy blessing as well. So I think as you and I have said before, I've always held the view that looking back in anger achieves nothing.
No.
But justice is important too.
It is.
So I think the thing must take its course and we'll see what happens.
So there'll be a common denominator found between justice and not looking back in anger.
I think the key issue is the difference is, and this is a big one, the difference will be people can make subjective mistakes, and I think ultimately they will be allowed to do that.
What do you mean by subjective mistakes?
Well, at any point in time, your judgment can be wrong.
Yes,
right? However, if someone is proved to have undertaken a fraudulent act knowingly, then I think you will see the courts take a different view. And I think if the truth is told, that is probably the issues that ultimately will come to the core at the end of this case. It's whether someone knowingly carried out a fraudulent act, or whether someone, based on information at the time, took business decisions.
Yeah. There's no crime in business decisions if made for the right reasons and without fraudulent intent.
But if you with fraudulent knowledge undertook an activity, or undertook a transaction, that will,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
But time will tell.
Why are we 45% more spending 45% more on our energy than those across the water?
Well, I think first of all, Roland, it's important that our viewers acknowledge there's no subject off the table with Rowan Hand. We're from NAMA now to energy. But anyway,
this is an acknowledgement of your wonderment and expertise, dear boy.
No. First of all, there'll be a pre-health warning that I am not an energy expert of any sort.
No.
But I think if one stands back a bit from the basic rationale, there's a couple of issues. There was the time that No, and electricity, obviously, the power stations were sold here in the north. There was deals done on prices.
Yeah.
There's also the more fundamental thing that we're an island and that power has to be brought to us. We're not self-sufficient yet. Hopefully the waves will come and the power will come and the natural gas. So the reality is that it is a major impact, by the way, on business. It's a very major impact on business, is energy costs. So it's something, obviously, that is worth continuing to work on, and you can see at present there's a big debate on it in terms of even the island and Britain and how we can make better utilisation of interconnectors.
There's a lot of talk at the moment, a lot of research being done on the wind farms off Kilkeel. That's a major thing, and there's great concern at the moment that it will have a bearing on the fishing industry there. And I would have thought, no, how could it be that? But it's shellfish, and the shellfish happen quite close to shore, and well, whatever. What about your friend, Mr. Naughton, Martin Naughton? How's he keeping? What's the story?
He's keeping very well. Actually, today he's speaking at the Women in Business Conference in Newry,
Yes.
and we as a firm are involved in that. But Martin Naughton was our leadership guest last year for an hour.
He was indeed.
And I can tell you that maybe that's something sometime we should look at on Destination Newry, the videos of those 1 hour interviews. They're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Martin Naughton's also a phenomenal success story. It started here in Newry, and if you think about it, a very humble man, but a very focused man, a man on a journey. And there were a number of constant themes: the acquisition of brands, the importance of people, the importance of innovation. Innovate. Some of his famous sayings: innovate or evaporate.
Oh, yeah, yes.
If you
indeed.
cannot delegate, you are a nuisance.
Oh, yeah.
These were things that, but above all, Naughton will be remembered for a guy that started off a business in Newry and ultimately still within his family control, no bank debt, turnover of over 2 billion euros. So, you're talking here about a guy who has done it, who's walked the rope, and along with his wife Carmen, have been extremely generous to the people of Ireland, and many are in culture and arts. But also Martin Naughton has never forgot his love for Newry. And I can assure you, I have no doubt as he travels down here this morning from his home, he'll be as enthusiastic as ever to share his life's experiences with people in this area.
What is it about great men? And we've, over the weeks and months, we have talked about great men. And you're there in that coterie yourself, of course, because you're a doyen of where you are.
Now, Ronan, hold on, calm yourself down. I'm just a player, but go ahead anyway.
I'm asking you this very simple question.
Calm yourself down, so that blue
What
tie,
is it in fellows
the Tories
like you?
is giving you an arrogance here now. You need to be careful about
New Labour, for goodness sake, would take me on any day. But what is it about great men, and we've talked about them, and does greatness come from nature or nurture? Are they born with it? Is it in their DNA?
Well, I personally believe they're not necessarily born with it, but they develop an inner ability to inspire others. Anybody can be called a leader, but an authentic leader by nature has the power to inspire others to follow him or her. And I think if you notice, they have a number of common goals beyond business. If you look at the real leaders of the world, they have passion, they have energy, they give people energy as opposed to sapping energy. They don't wish to be liked, but they do expect to be respected because they do it. They take decisions on what they believe from their integrity and their judgment at a point in time is right. And they could make mistakes, but if they make mistakes, they move on. But the key point is, I believe they are on a journey. They're not headless. They do believe there is a way forward. They see that way forward. And more importantly, they build very good teams around them. Very astute leaders always build teams. And the teams around them are probably more able than them.
Yes.
And that's the genius of a good leader, because a good leader realizes you're only as good as your team, and therefore it's the output of your team and not your input that's important, but your leadership, your bringing of that team together. I suppose you could say about great leaders, they may use the old Japanese proverb, I can't do it without them, and they can't do it without me. Or none of us are as smart as all of us. But the reality is, they have that that aura about them. They lead, and they can do it so many different ways. Like Brian O'Driscoll leads by example. They say nobody can remember him being late for a training session. Now think that over. Other characters maybe coming 5, 10. Nobody can ever remember.
No, late's not acceptable.
O'Driscoll was there 5 minutes early.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is even as a juvenile. So in his heart somewhere he took a deliberate decision.
Oh, yes.
Do you get me? Now then you have the vocal person. So there are many different ways of being a great leader. But if you study them all, they all have that inner belief, I think, and passion and energy. They're enthused, they're motivated, they want to help other people. They want to help people achieve their dreams. They want to achieve dreams for the people around them. But I think Martin Naughton, certainly, Sir John Parker, Dennis O'Brien, they're all in that. They're all in that group.
What J.P. McManus, a very decent man down in Limerick, he's helped me greatly in Africa. He's a wonderful, again, it's that greatness of outreach and giving and generosity. It goes on all the time. But I want to tell you this, and I really want to thank you, because in the last 3 minutes, you've given me a modus vivendi for my next life. So when I'm reincarnated and come back, I will remember these words, and I too shall become great, Feargal. And I thank you so much for that.
Well, you know, Rowan, you shouldn't have to die before you're acknowledged as great. And whilst some may call you a maverick, some may call you an eccentric.
Indeed.
I think no one can deny what you've achieved here in this programme, obviously with limited budgeted resources, is a phenomenal testament to your ability and your charisma. And you've brought a lot of people with you.
How very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. We wish you well. Will you come back next week?
I will try.
And will you? I'll write the final script for you next week as well, so that you can read it.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. Go well. Let's go.